Good evening, everybody. This is Alex Books and Roger Sutherland of the Guitar Gear Locker, and this is episode 4. And I'm happy to have my friend Matt Sorg, who is the guitar player of Ringworm, Shed the Skin, numerous bands. I can't even begin into all the bands that Matt's done over the years. Amazing guitar player. And welcome to the show, Matt.
Thanks for having me, Alex and Roger.
So, basically what we start off with usually is just kind of like to ask you like a two-part question of, how you got into music, and was there a moment when you were like, I'm going to play guitar. I'm going to be a guitar player. That's what I want to do.
Well, I got into music before I could even remember because my parents were 17 when I was born, and it was 1971. So they were into what 17-year-old kids were into at the time: Zeppelin, Sabbath, Deep Purple, Alice Cooper, all this kind of stuff. And so I was raised in that house with that kind of shit all the time blaring, and yeah, they took me to see Alice Cooper when I was 4. I was a couple weeks before I was 4, actually. It was the first week of April, and I turned 4 in May, and so about a month before my 4th birthday, I went and saw Alice Cooper and Susie Quatro. And so I was pretty early into.
Isn't that Pinky Tuscadero's sister, Leather?
No, that is her. That's her.
Yeah. What was her name? Leather
Tuscadero. I can't believe I remember that.
What Alice Cooper tour was that, by the way? What album was that?
Welcome to My Nightmare. So the first one without the
okay.
guitar and that lineup, it was. I mean, I was just little. I remember that I didn't think he was really there because the first part of the show was there's a big sheet over the screen over the stage, and they projected a cemetery dance sequence or whatever where Alice was dancing with skeletons or something. And I remember being bummed. Oh, it's a movie. It's not even here. And then that sheet dropped, and I was, okay. My parents didn't lie to me. It's a real show. But I don't remember too much.
Yeah, so that was probably around the time that Alice Cooper was on the Muppets. You guys remember when he came on the Muppets?
Oh yeah.
I think that was a few years later. The Muppet show. Maybe like 7.
I guess when you're 3 years old, that's either going to do one thing. It's going to drive you away from it and scare the hell out of you, or drive you to it.
Yeah. They took me they didn't just take me out of the blue. They took me because I took an interest in Alice Cooper on my own. Out from their record collection. You know what I mean? I didn't find it on my own. But of all those records they had, Alice had like snakes wrapped around him and the ghoulish makeup and stuff. And as a little kid, I was just like, oh, that's the cool record right there, Alice Cooper. So they took me because I was drawn to the Alice Cooper.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
So, yeah, that's what so that was Alice Cooper. And then a year later I got Destroyer, when I was 5. And so Kiss was that was it then,
Right.
Yeah.
I was just in this. That was pretty much it. Kiss was it until I was about 12, and I heard like Quiet Riot and Def Leppard and Motley Crue, and then, when MTV started introducing me to those bands, and I was like, oh, it's not just Kiss. There's actually there's all these other bands,
Yeah.
Because it was pretty hard to compete with Kiss for that stretch there because fire breathing and blood spitting and all this rockets shooting out of the guitars and shit, That 80s metal was like, oh, that's exciting stuff. I like that. And that's about when I wanted to play guitar. That was about that was 83 when I first got MTV and saw Quiet Riot videos and Loudness videos and all that shit, shortly thereafter. And that's about that. Those are the bands that made me want to get a guitar. And then about the time that I was able to actually like form some chords and stuff is when Metallica took over, and then I just wanted to downpick really fast,
Right.
Yeah.
I can remember. Are you all by ear? Did you just pick it up yourself?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Pretty much. I sat with like I did get some like tablature books of Randy Rhoads and Metallica and stuff like that. I had a Kiss one. I still have them all, but yeah, and I learned, it's not that hard to read tablature. You don't have to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I figured out tablature, and I learned it that way, mostly just playing along to the records, eyeballing that tablature and figuring out where it is on the fretboard, and then matching it by ear, and learn to play mostly to those Metallica records. Really, that's really what took my focus once I heard Master of Puppets, and I was like, I went back and got the first two, and I just really dived. That's what I wanted to. Those other bands maybe want to play guitar, and then Metallica maybe want to play guitar like that right away.
Right.
Yeah. It was the same for me when I learned how to down pick, and I was just like, "Oh my god, I can do that!"
Yeah. That's the only way, like, especially when I was real young and just starting to play it. That was the only way I could make it sound like that. Like I couldn't get that tightness without going alternate picking, at that speed. Oh, Slayer speed, sure. You know what I mean? You got no choice, down pick that. But if you can physically down pick it, I always, I'll go a little fast. Some other people will be like, I'm always, no matter what, if my hand can do it, I'd still down pick everything.
I saw a somewhat recent interview with Hetfield, and he showed how he does that, and how he holds a pick, and he holds a pick with 3 fingers. Like
I saw that too. Yeah.
And he's like this, and I was just like, wow.
Yeah.
Everybody's got their own thing, so.
Right. Yeah, I definitely don't do that. I just got that.
Yeah, I'm this.
Yeah.
You do that. I use this finger to tap, and then I don't have to, I don't have to, the pick stays where it is, and I use the middle finger to tap,
Right.
Yeah. Nice. So what was some of like the first guitars you got? Because I mean, a lot of us we're all in the same age group, and it's like we all started with those cheap guitars, with the action with this high,
My dad his friend when I said I wanted a guitar for Christmas, that was 85. I said I wanted a guitar for Christmas, and he had a friend. I don't remember his name. His name was John, but I barely remember the guy, but that's who he asked right away. He knew his friend played guitar, and so he asked him about it, and his friend sold him a cheap little Yamaha amp that I couldn't get any distortion out of, no matter if I cranked all the knobs on 10 or what, just no gain at all. And Electra Les Paul knockoff, a Japanese Les Paul, basically, it was pretty.
Hetfield V Electra.
Yeah, that's what this V was. Yeah, the Electra. That was the same brand, but mine was a Les Paul, and it had like a little switcher on it that it had a phaser in it and shit. It had some weird effects built into the guitar. I think it was pretty nice, but I sold it so young that I don't even know. Like, I was trying to think if I had a bolt-on neck or a set neck, because they made them both ways. I've looked into it recently, and trying to see, and they made them both ways. So I don't know if it was one of the nicer models that was set neck, or if it was a cheaper bolt-on neck. I don't even know, because I was so young and inexperienced that I wouldn't have known the difference at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But
speaking of that, I'm curious what your opinion is like you're saying, like set necks, bolt-on necks, neck through body. Is there any preference of what you feel sounds the best as far as
Well, I mean, I don't know what's better than I don't know what one's best, because really great guitar players, Eddie Van Halen and George Lynch and guys like that, use bolt-on neck guitars. Like Warren DeMartini, these guys use bolt-on necks preferably,
Right.
So what's better, I don't know, but definitely when we're talking about Gibson's styles, a set neck is the way to, because that's the way to give. If you a high quality Gibson copy will have a set neck, because that's the way Gibsons are. You're trying to make it like a Gibson, then that's a better quality. So I'm not saying that set necks are better in general than bolt-on necks, but for a Gibson style, you shouldn't have bolt-on neck. Yeah, I used to have a neck through Jackson Rainey Rhodes V that was awesome, and I sold it because it had a Floyd, and I got real. I just can't. I don't have the patience for Floyd Rose.
Yeah, I hear that too.
But and I had a neck through Warlock, a real nice one with the R logo up on top. Like probably a late '70s or early '80s. I never did know the year, But I sold that to Wayne Richards from Solus and years ago. He still has that and plays it. You probably even seen it at some point.
Red one, right?
Yeah, the Red Warlock. That was mine. I
Yeah,
bought that from out of the newspaper.
yeah, I know that one. Yeah. Oh wow. Okay. Cool.
So I've had a couple of neck throughs, and those were super nice, you know. But I feel most comfortable with Gibson V's and Gibson Les Pauls. You know, that's my comfort zone. You know.
Right.
Mhm.
Any particular year Les Paul?
I have two 97s, but not because I prefer I just
Right.
two that I ended up with were 97s. I have a 04. It's a classic. So it's a 1960 reissue with those have slimmer necks than the
Right.
standards, you know.
Mhm.
I like that one a lot because the neck is nice.
Yeah.
It's right next to me actually. Yeah, this one.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And 60s neck.
Yeah, it's got the slimmer profile neck.
Yeah, you don't like the baseball bat?
I prefer the slimmer one if possible. Yeah.
Right.
I don't mind. I can adjust. If I go on tour and play one of my V's or my Les Paul that has a slimmer neck, and then I come home and I play a standard, just grab it off and play that. My hand aches from I don't know. You have to reach around it a different way. You know.
Yeah.
You have to get used to it, I guess.
It's an acquired taste.
Yeah.
Or a bigger hand. Maybe it's a hand thing. I don't know.
I don't have huge hands.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, me neither. It's like thinner necks. You know, I do have some baseball neck guitars, you know, but
yeah, me too.
You know, it's cool for like I not for a live thing, but in the studio and they sound good, you know. It's like little
Oh yeah, I like to record rhythms with the Les Paul just for that reason. What you just said, just nice thick body, you know, like thick hunk of mahogany. V's are my favorite for playing live. V's are just the most comfortable and best high fret access. You know, there's nothing to obstruct you on the there. And
faster,
yeah, but I play better on a V because when you go up to you got to reach around so much shit on a Les Paul trying to get up to these frets. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
It's really hard to get up there.
Right.
And there's a V, no problem there at all. You know, but in the studio, I use Les Paul for the rhythms because I just want that real fat sound. You know, that you can't really the V don't quite have that. You know,
I like how he has a whole couch full of guitars.
Yeah. Like within reach, always, you know.
I always have one or two sitting around. These are placed here because I'm doing this.
Yeah, right.
But I would always have at least this one's usually sitting next to me at all points. So, you know, at all times.
Which one was that?
Oh, this is I have a 96 V that I like a lot. It's really cool. Like, I don't know. Just
nice.
I have 6 V's, and this one just has some of them sound a little darker, and some of them sound a little brighter, and this one's like right perfect in the middle. You know, it's got enough. It's got low end, but but not too much. Because sometimes I had an 84 V and those were made with alder, and those are so dark sounding that it's hard to get like a metallic crunch out of it. You know, because there's not enough. It just gets lost in the mud, all the treble and mids, you know. But this one sits right in the middle. It's good.
What is that one made out of?
Mahogany.
Mahogany, okay.
Only in the mid 80s, like 84, 85, they used alder. I don't know what that was about, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe they're trying to compete with like Jackson at that time, you know, because that was like
the Jacksons don't have that overly dark sound like that though, for whatever reason. So maybe it's not the alder that's the problem. I don't know, but I just know that I've had bad luck getting a good tone out of the mid 80s Gibson V's.
I have, you know, I kind of having the same conversation the other day about alder and mahogany, and sometimes certain guitars just have their own personality, and you would think like I have one V, it's an alder body, but it's a heavy guitar and it's got a fucking dark tone to it. I mean, it sounds great, but it sounds more like a Les Paul or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's funny how that works sometimes. Like you never can tell, you know. And I have my guitars in mahogany, like super bright, you know. And
that older V that I had, I ended up selling that V because I tried a bunch of different pickups in it, and no matter what, it just was muddy. It just was real muddy, and
Yeah.
all the crunch would get lost in that mud, like quicksand or whatever. It just couldn't
Yeah,
get the right sound out of it at all, no matter
right.
what.
Now, you mostly do active pickups, right?
Yeah, I've got a EMG endorsement. I like working with those guys. This has the headset in it, which I like the headsets, and the headsets are good. They sound they have that EMG, that thing that you liked about EMGs, but it's a kind of it's a broader sound. You know what I mean? James Hetfield worked with them and made this pickup that it just
More
sounds.
articulate, like a passive kind of,
It's
like the
very,
articulation, but the hotness of it,
I think it's like less
81 or
compressed
something.
sounding. It's more
Mhm.
articulate for sure, and it's
Right.
also
Mhm.
just got. He wanted to mix. He said that he wanted he loved his 81s, but he also liked when he would pick up a Les Paul that had a passive pickup in or whatever, and so he tried to get somewhere in the middle, and it
Yeah.
that's what that's what it sounds like to me, is like it's got a little bit more warmth and a little more not so compressed EQ sound, but more a broader, more natural sound, but it still
Right.
has it still has that active punch that you're looking for,
Yeah.
Right.
that I'm
Right.
looking for anyway,
Is it similar to like a 5766
It
EMG?
is.
Is it?
I have a 57
Mhm.
66 in my white V, and yeah, and
Mhm.
that it is similar to that. I think it's a little bit more like refined version of that. Like they probably worked
Right.
off of that and then did whatever they did and made it what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know that for
Right.
sure, but there is
Right.
I do play that white V all the time, and it's pretty similar, the tone of the head to the 57s.
Mhm.
I
Nice.
like.
Nice.
The so you have one with the 57s in it? Uh,
I
how would
do.
you compare? I and it's probably not nice. I'm sorry. I asked for the one that's not on the couch.
It's not. I mean, it doesn't. I'm not going to play it
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah, it's not a big deal. You don't have to show it. It's not show and tell.
I have a white V that has a 5766 combo in it, and it's pretty close. Like they don't sound drastically different, the headsets and the 5766. They're both
Right,
kind of
right,
doing that same thing. I think they're both trying to give you that preamped, you know, extra bite that a EMG gives you, but also trying to not be so almost fake sounding like the 81s could be, where they're really compressed and really,
right,
it's a
right,
it's just a bigger, a broader sound, that
right,
they give.
right.
They managed to beef up the 81 where it's not so just, but it still has that. It still do that
Yeah,
thing
yeah,
cool about
yeah.
it.
Now man, I always sound like a cyber stalker when I ask these questions. Like I saw you have a mismatch. Like some of your guitars have an EMG and then a passive, right?
Yeah, that's not really for any. Basically, that's just because I don't usually use the neck pickup.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't really care if I switch it. If it's cheaper, I'll just buy half the set because I'm only going to use half the set anyway. But
Right,
like,
right.
I do have a couple where I put both in there.
Yeah,
I put the full headset in there because these are real good for clean sounds. So, and it's
sure.
very rare that I need a clean sound, but sometimes for an interlude in the studio, or
Right,
I have a band Rip Ride that's like a 80s metal band, and
right.
we actually both we just did our second album, and both albums have a power ballad, and so I actually need a clean tone.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's a couple of them where I did put the neck pickup in because that does make for a real nice clean tone.
Right,
My
right.
my friend lives across the street, Dana from Keel Hall. There's a band from Cleveland called Keel Hall that's like a
Yeah, yeah.
artsy metal band, kind of, like,
Uh-huh.
and I mean, they've been broken up for a while now, but they're great band and great dudes. And he lives directly across the street, and he had this Roland amp that's just a little combo amp, and it's perfect for cleans. It's got like the delay, and the chorus is already built in and everything. So I took this I took this in and used that het neck pickup through that clean Roland
Right,
amp.
right.
Just screams 80s. It's awesome.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
that's not like the, I can't remember the name of that Roland amp, but the one that Billy Duffy from, the Cult
Yeah.
uses, like, he used it in the '80s, like, for the more
Yeah.
new wave stuff he did, and he incorporates that, which is cool. I think he incorporates that with, like, the Marshall or whatever,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah. Yeah.
the combo. It's probably, like, around the same type of amp.
I think that's what Hetfield uses for his cleans too, is that one of those little Roland amps. I read somewhere that Dimebag
Yeah,
turned him
yeah.
on. in the 80s or whatever. So
Yeah.
even before Dimebag was known or whatever, they partied, the earlier days of
Yeah.
Metallica, and he turned them on to this little Roland for the cleans. And I don't know what album that was where they started. I think by Justice he was using that. Could be wrong.
Yeah. As far as like all that, like you do, like you said, like Rip Ride, it's like you got like a heavy metal band, you got, Ringworm, which is more like I would consider more like crossover kind of thing going on.
Yeah, that's
And
pretty good.
Shed the Skin is this straightforward death metal band and kind of melodic and stuff too. And do you gravitate towards different guitars for different projects you're in or different rigs?
Yeah. Or I kind of designate guitars for this tunings and stuff, or whatever. Like this will be. I have my SG. I have a red SG showcase edition. I know you've mentioned. You've
the three humbucker one you got.
Humbucker one, yeah. I have that one, and I use that for Shed the Skin. I just always put the thicker strings on it and tune it down to B standard, and that's kind of my designated Shed the Skin guitar. And I have an Explorer that I did the same. I also tuned that down to B with the like 11 to 56 or something on them, and that's those. Then I don't have to do that. I hate doing that too. Like if I take this and put that on it, then it's gonna widen the nut grooves and stuff, and then I'll go to use it for ringworm, and those things will just be swinging in there. So I like that. I only have those two that I'll do that I'll go to death metal tuning with, and the rest I just kind of all, because the ringworm's in D standard and Rip Ride's in flat, so it's only a half step. So I can use the rest for either or, doesn't matter. I just grab one, and that's the one I'm using that day. But yeah, the death metal tuning, I just have the SG and the Explorer for that.
Nice. That SG is like I remember like seeing you with that guitar years ago, and you probably remember, and I was like coming up like, dude, that fucking guitar is ridiculous.
Yeah, first show at MDF, you came up right afterwards, and you're like that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So, as far as like the new album, the new Ringworm album that came out, what were you using in the studio? As far as like, what type of rig do you use? Do you use a different rig in the studio that you may not use on tour? Or
no, I usually just for years and years I used my 800s. I have two JCM 800s from the 80s. They're both 85s, and so I use one of those every time pretty much, and I track with this usually. I track with this one rhythms. I do with this one. That has an EMG in it also, but that's a Super 77, which is kind of like it's another one where that even looks like a passive pickup, and
it does.
But it does have active preamp. But I think it is basically a passive pickup that they also. It's like a passive active hybrid.
Sure.
I guess. I don't know, but it sounds good with the Les Paul. Like you still can hear it. Maybe I'm imagining it, but seems like you can still hear the body of the guitar. You're not bypassing it with the active pickup entirely. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
I tell myself that.
It's what is it called? The guitar voodoo.
Yeah.
There's a little like it's a lot of skill and a little bit of voodoo.
Yeah,
for sure.
But sometimes there's just that magic combination of that guitar with some pickup that just works, and it's like no, you can't explain it, it's just.
Yeah.
I just bought a Silver Jubilee a few weeks ago from a friend. A friend had some unfortunate situation where he had to quit touring basically for the foreseeable future and get rid of some gear. And so he sold me that thing pretty cheap. I got a real good price on it. And I swapped out the tubes because he had never changed out the factory tubes. They were still the Marshall tubes or whatever, that would come in it. And those usually aren't really for high gain. Those aren't really, you usually want to swap them out for some high gain tubes, So I put some Electro Harmonics power tubes and Gold Lion preamp tubes in it. And that thing is fucking ripping, man. I used that at Rip Ride show a couple weeks ago, last week, I think. And that's the first time I used it out. That thing is awesome, that Silver Jubilee. And I'm going to use it. Ringworm's playing Friday. here in Cleveland, and I'm gonna and we're down to just me on guitar now because of what I just said. The guy that sold me this with our guitar for a while. So Todd, but yeah, so that's the first. I'm gonna just put a cab on both sides and go one guitar for it. So I think that Silver Jubilee is gonna be just fine though. That's a fucking kick-ass amp.
Yeah.
Mhm. Nice.
What kind of effects do you use? Are you guitar right to amp with a lot of gain or pedals or?
Yeah, I have a pedal board that I run it. It's got a I run an SD1 in the front. I've been running with I was with the 800s. I was running a SD1 and this Strictly 7 Tube Screamer clone pickup
Right.
pedal that I have. I was stacking them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And not really like trying to get like double the overdrive or something out of it. But I was using it to like the one had a little more low end and the one had it was more like mixing one pedal together
Yeah.
kind of, it
Sure.
was what I was trying to do. It worked really good with the 800s, but that Tube Screamer just sucks all the bass out of the Silver Jubilee immediately. Like that.
Wow.
So it works better when I just use the SD1. I've
Right.
Noah at the studio, Noah Buchanan, he described it as basically because they have a Silver Jubilee in there. Sean Vanek has one that they use at the studio at Mercenary, and
Mhm.
said that the Silver Jubilee basically has a tube screamer built in already, and so when you put that
Wow.
tube screamer in front of it, it's like because a tube screamer will kind of suck some bass out, and then it cranks the
Right.
mids. And so if you
Mhm.
already have that in your amp, and then you put that in front of your amp, it's just like it's just
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
took the streamer out of the mix. So I just run that SD1 in the front, and then I've been putting in through the effects loop, which I never really used effects loops with the 800s. You don't really. It seems like everything sounds fine going in the front of an 800, but with the Silver
Yeah.
Jubilee, the overdrive was really coloring my delay. When I would go to
Right.
pick on the delay for leads, it was like real scratchy, real too gritty for the leads, So
Right.
Mhm.
I I go straight from the SD1 into the front of the amp, and into the back of the amp, I'm going in the loop. I've got the delay and the EQs and all that,
Right.
and that's how. Then when you kick that lead, the lead, I mean, it's not really a lead channel, but when you kick the delay pedal on it, it's it's much cleaner. Like
Right.
the overdrive doesn't hit it. I never did
Right.
that before,
Mhm.
but that's pretty common knowledge for most people, I think. But I never fucked with the effects loop before, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
I've never used the effects loop,
Yes,
It's like I
I always was
I
like,
try to
that's
hook
crazy.
delay to it. Yeah,
It's
it's like I put in the, I don't know if you're familiar with the Line 6, analog delay. It's a green one. It's like
I never used that one
it's
before.
yeah, it's probably my favorite sounding delay, and but I don't know, just something doesn't sound right. It
Right.
sounds better in the front of my amps, but like you said, it could be
Oh, you
whatever,
tried it
some
in
weird.
the effects loop and you didn't like it.
Yeah, I
Okay.
didn't like it. Yeah.
Mine
Right.
is the Boss. I got the Boss analog delay. That's what I've been using. It's
Mhm.
pretty good delay. I like because like a digital delay, it just goes wah, 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 same volume
Oh,
until you turn it off, kind of. But the analog does.
yeah.
I like that.
And
Right. Right.
I had the Boss digital delay, and I wasn't a fan. It just,
Yeah, the analog one is.
yeah.
I like the analog one a lot though. It's like burgundy colored one, or whatever. It's like a Boss analog delay. It's a pretty good one.
Right.
Yeah.
I just got this pedal
Nice.
called I just got this Gup Tech PD EQ. Have you heard of that pedal before?
Mm.
No,
It's like it's a EQ kind of, but it doesn't have all this. It's just a depth and a presence. It's got two knobs on it and a switch under each one. So you could feasibly, if you wanted to turn the presence off and only have the depth on, you can do that. But I just kick them both on. But with that Silver Jubilee, or I'd imagine with any Marshall, but I just got it and I've only tried it with the Silver Jubilee. But I guess it was designed for Gary Holt's Silver Jubilees. Gary Holt had him build the
yeah,
thing
yeah,
to
he's used to it.
work with
Yeah.
his Silver Jubilees. But it'll work with any amp. But it's you should look into it because it's just like taking the blanket off the speakers. Like it just opens up more. It opens up the lows and the pres. It works really good. The thing is awesome. it just
Right.
adds and broadens that tone, you know.
Yeah,
Right.
that sounds like something I'm kind of looking for. So,
When I got the Silver Jubilee, I put a picture of it on like a Facebook heavy metal gear. I think you're on that thing, right? On that heavy metal gear thing on Facebook or whatever. I think I've seen you on there before.
oh yeah. There's a bunch of shit I'm on
Alex
there. I don't
Alex
keep
doesn't
track.
look at gear a whole lot. He
Yeah,
doesn't track gear. He's not into it. It's not his thing.
I look, I look at Reverb all day long, looking at stuff I can't afford to buy, or it's just kind of like, hey, I say to my wife, like, yeah, that thing I was looking at that I really like? Yeah. Well, I actually bought it. I got it at a good price. How much was it? Oh, it was $2,500. Oh, it's like,
yeah.
It's funny they're saying Alex doesn't talk or look at gear. We'll start a conversation like during the week about this show, and then like 30 seconds later start talking about guitars. An hour later, we hadn't talked about the show.
Right. I mean, you're doing a podcast about gear. You obviously, you
yeah,
like
Right. We're us talking about gear is doing homework.
I put that Silver Jubilee up on that Facebook page though, heavy metal amps and whatever it is. I don't know what it's called, but
yeah.
right away I got a whole bunch of people saying you should try this PDEQ Guptech PDEQ, and what dudes were even putting pictures of the pedal up and everything, and I was and my friend Mike Laird's one of Mike Laird's best buddies, Mike Corns, is a gear. He has like a gear heaven in his basement or his man cave or whatever. It's just like amps and amps and amps and more amps, every pedal known to man, tons of guitars. Yeah. Luke Shively goes over there all the time and jams with them, and they just get fucked up and plug different guitars into different amps all day or whatever.
Sounds like my place.
Yeah, I can't believe I've never been there, but it's like it's down past Columbus somewhere, so it's not like right around the corner for me. It takes you have to have a whole day off to go do that, but yeah, Lair goes there and like Luke Shively goes there and they jam on all that gear. But he's the first one. He goes, you got the Silver Jubilee. I see. He's like, you should get this pedal. I'm telling you, this is amazing. And he knows everything. I'm like, he said Gary Holt, blah blah blah, and I'm like, that sounds good to me. I'll try it out. And it's I recommend it. It's only like $100 too. It's like not a super expensive pedal. Some guy in Canada makes it up in Montreal. Guillaume.
Nice.
Guillaume.
So
we're gonna have to look into.
What is your? I think I know the answer, but what is your favorite guitar? I think you already said it. What's your favorite guitar, and then what's your next guitar?
You mean very specific guitar, like my
your favorite now, and then the next one, like the one you're gonna get, because we know that'll happen.
I mean, I like these V's. The V's are my favorite guitar. I mean, like I said, I record with the Les Pauls because they're fatter sounding, because it's permanent. They sound great on stage. No one would know the difference. You know what I mean? You're plugging through all that gain and everything anyway. But in the studio, you can really dissect it more and shit. And I want that low end that a Les Paul, that added beef that a Les Paul has to it. Yeah. But yeah, my favorite guitars are V's. I feel most comfortable with the V, and this is probably my favorite right now. But
yeah, that's what I was looking for, like the specific. That's your favorite one. I kind of figured that.
This is probably my favorite one right now. But I have a black one with a black pick guard. That's also a 96. That is kind of that. It could go either way, this one or that one. But this one, I think, like I said earlier, they all have a little bit different sound, and this one just sits real good, right where I want it, with the right amount of low end and the right amount of bite, the right, trebles and mids are good, and it just got a good tone. That one. I don't know why. You would think they would all be the same. I have 3 96s. You would think they'd all be exactly the same, but they aren't,
Right.
Different part of the tree or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, right. So what's the next guitar? What do you have your eye on?
I always look for V's. I got this one. I got this Greco Schenker V. Was the last one I bought. It's not a Gibson. It's a Greco. 1984 Japanese knockoff of the Schenker V. It's pretty nice though. You wouldn't. I've got 5 Gibson V's, and this one is not less good. I don't think. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's lighter.
Right.
It's definitely lighter. I
saw
got
Schenker playing V. He's playing Gibson again, so
I know.
I guarantee they're going to put out like that V, and it's going to be like 50 grand.
Yeah, you're probably right. Did you see where Kirk Hammett just bought the real Schenker V? Like he
Oh
acquired
no,
that,
I didn't.
put it up on his
Oh,
social
did
media.
he?
Whatever. He got a
Oh,
few.
shit,
He got some crazy V's that were, I'm sure, $1 million or something. But one of them was the real black and white first, like it was a medallion V. It was one of the medallion V's that Schenker had repainted to look like this.
yeah, he painted that black
Yeah.
maybe first or something like that. I
Yeah,
think,
he
right?
painted
It was like black. Yeah,
He
yeah.
painted
And he took the medallion out too. He
Yeah.
pulled that out of him.
Yeah. And then he had it. Then he had it refinished again, like in this style. Look, did you ever? This is
wow.
this is called a
That
string.
is-
You ever hear the String Butler?
Oh yeah,
No.
yeah. What do you think of it?
Yeah, it's awesome, man. And this one, the guy painted it custom for me. Sven Dietrich, the guy that makes
You
it.
can barely even see it.
Yeah, it's what I mean. It does.
It blends right in.
I put him on this one too. Try not to break that guitar. Okay, yeah. I put him on. I put one on this too. These things are awesome for keeping these. Because the G string goes out. I've been
right.
I'm an Ace Frehley guy. I've been the G string all the time, and that thing really makes a huge difference in tuning stability on these Gibsons. Like,
Yeah.
Wow.
And you know what? I've never seen one that kind of blended in like that.
oh yeah, because I emailed the guy. Let me backstory. This guitar has a brass nut on it.
Yeah.
And I never had a guitar with a brass nut before. So I put this Hetfield bridge in there, or my friend Jimmy did, that does all my work for me. Put the Hetfield bridge in there, and it wouldn't stay in. It sounded awesome, and I think that I could hear that. At least in my head, I could hear that difference of the brass nut. Like it added more metal to the more metallic crunch came out of that thing, and I liked it. But it wouldn't stay in tune for shit. Like not at all. Not even for a riff, So I had Jimmy change the tuning pegs. I put Graphtec ratios on there because those were they were 39. This is a 1984 guitar and they were original. So 40-year-old tuning pegs. I thought maybe that was the problem. And he changed that out and that didn't do it. So Jimmy was like, I bet it's the brass nut catching the strings, real worse than a regular one already does on a Gibson style guitar, So he filed those out and gave it back to me, and that still didn't help. So I was really wanting to smash this guitar in the driveway, I couldn't keep it. And
Don't do it.
So
send it to me. I'll smash it in my driveway and tell you about it.
I looked up on YouTube just looking for solutions, knots or whatever, all these things people do to keep these things in tune when they won't stay in tune. And because I didn't want to get rid of the brass nut because it made it sound crunchier. I want to try and keep that brass nut. So I found some videos where these people were talking about the String Butler, and I'd never heard of it before. And so I looked into it, and I watched enough videos where all these different guys were really raving about it. Some of the guys were like, there's a guy, Tim Pierce, that's like a guy played on everybody's songs ever, and he does all kinds of YouTube videos. Plays like a studio guy that's been doing it for decades and decades and played on massive hits and stuff, and he was raving about it. So I was like, all right. So I tried it out. I got one. I got this silver one off eBay, and I put it on here on this thing, and I took a picture of it. I played it for 40. I played it for like a day and a half, and I couldn't believe that this guitar that would never stay in tune was just perfect. I haven't touched this. I haven't touched that thing in days, and it's still like this guitar that would never stay in tune is always in tune now, always.
Right.
And so I emailed the guy. I went on the String Butler website, contact, and emailed him. And I told him exactly what I just told you. I said this guitar sucked and I hated it and I wanted, and I told him that I put that thing on and I've played it for over 24 hours and it's just amazing and it stays in tune perfectly. And he right away said back and he's like, he looked up the band and everything and he's like, he's in Germany, so he knows where Nuclear Blast Records is and shit like that, I guess. And he looked it up and he said, right away he got back to me and he said, yeah, you want artist pricing and all this? And I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. And then he sent me this one for free painted it custom to match the shaker V. You know, like,
Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah, the guy. So that was
Because that's a lot of the rub, I think, is guys who and Alex, this is exactly what we worked on your guitar the other day. We had the problem with the G string hanging up in the nut.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Gibsons are even worse because of the break angle. But you put that on there and it kind of takes away that angle on it. But some people don't like it because it takes away from the nostalgic look of Gibson.
Look how straight they go through. Like,
Yeah.
There's no break. I mean, you know, there's a huge break there. But
Yeah.
the thing is,
Yeah.
but it has these little metal what do you call these things, Joey? What are you talking about? What do you call the little thing? The little
Like an anchor?
it's got like a little wheels, they spin like these.
Oh,
Like a
yeah,
swivel.
yeah.
So like if the strings weren't on and I went like this, you'd hear them go.
Almost like you have on a string tree on a Strat.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
so these things turn, these things move
Yep.
when you they don't catch on. It doesn't catch
Right.
on there because it's got
Yeah.
rollers. That's what I'm looking for.
Yep.
Rollers was the
Rollers.
word.
There you go. Yeah, I have a string tree on my Strat that has the rollers on it also.
Yeah, so that works really good. Like I've seen people online talking about these string butlers, and they complain that, well, now the break's even more severe up there, but the difference is, you know, there's no roller in your nut so that catches there, but here it just rolls right by, but it's not catching.
Right.
Anymore, you know?
Right.
All I know is I'm no scientist or whatever, or luthier or anything, but I put the thing on the guitar and it only takes 3 screws. You know what I mean? You just put it right, it matches right up to the fucking truss rod cover, and it stays in tune perfect always. Again, I didn't play that thing today. You know, you pick up.
That was a good commercial, huh? For a string butler.
Yeah, fucking string butler thing rules.
Yeah, I mean they seem to work. They solved the problem, right?
If you're a guy that plays Gibsons forever, then these things are. I put one on this too.
Did you put one on your Les Paul? Oh, you did.
Yeah,
See, that doesn't look hateful.
No, it goes right over the truss rod cover. You know.
Yeah.
You don't even realize
there's a little character to it too. You know, it's like kind of makes it its own thing too. You know, with the guitar. You know,
I was only worried about the Schenker V because that one had that brass nut. But once I put it on there and I realized how it makes you realize how much time I'm actually spending tuning these things.
Right.
I didn't think there was a problem really. I thought I've got that managed. I know what I'm doing. I string the string this way. I change the strings this often and blah, blah, blah. I got my system. But once I that guitar that sucked so bad, tuning stability, was all of a sudden the best tuning guitar I owned. I'm like, fuck, I'm just going to put it on.
Do you use any locking tuners on any of your guitars you have?
I mean, these are those ratios, those GraphTech ratios, those are like the Schaller style or whatever. You know,
right.
You turn that, they lock. They lock. I got those on a bunch of them.
What do you think of the ratios?
Those are nice. Yeah, they're really nice.
They are.
They're nice tuners. My guy at Sweetwater recommended I try those out, and I did, and I put them on 4 of my guitars, I think.
Yeah, I just finished. I just built an acoustic, and I put ratios on that. And GraphTech's a great company too. I love dealing with them.
Yeah,
they have good products, good company. I was curious to see how. I know I like the ones on mine. That's the only I've never seen a set come through here other than the ones I have.
I used to just put Grovers on all the time when my Klusons would finally not, you know, when they started getting too loose or whatever, you know, I would put Grovers on, and those are good too. I put Grovers on this one. You know, I got Grovers on a bunch of them too.
Yeah.
And these lock, they don't have that little thing on the back. It's like a different locking mechanism in there. I don't know how that one works, but you don't have to.
I know what you're talking.
Yeah.
Like Godo, you have them. The old Godos, they had lock, but they were kind of a pain in the ass. I took them off. The guitar you're working on.
Yeah.
Actually, the Godos, the newer version of the Godos with the spin, but the old version was like you had to stick the string through, and then you had to like turn it a certain way. It was like bizarro. It was just not.
I never tried Goto. I've always heard good things about that company too.
Yeah, that's another. They make good stuff. I think the worst
Yeah.
locking tuners, and I hate it because I'm from Maryland and I love PRS guitars, but those early versions with the wings on them, oh my god!
Oh yeah,
I don't know if you've seen those or not, but you have to have the string in them, and they actually like once you refamiliarize yourself with them, they actually work pretty well. They're just odd. Those and I think the Dario makes one that automatically cuts a string off, which I hate.
huh.
Because it's kinda unforgiving. If you're a guitar tech and you put the strings on it and it clips your string, and then, God forbid, you have to loosen the string up to do something, you're done.
Yeah, you didn't get
No
the right
string
length.
time.
Yeah,
And you don't
yeah.
like Floyd's?
I mean, they work good. And there's so much maintenance involved. If I had a tech, if I could just hand the guitar to somebody and they would do it for
Yeah.
me, then it'd
Then
be
it's
great.
easier. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, but I
Yeah.
don't have a tech, so I can't use that. It's just too much. I've broken strings on stage with Floyd's before, and it's just basically just done.
Oh,
You know,
I
you gotta.
block all mine. I block all the Floyds that I have,
Yeah,
and they stay in tune better, and it doesn't jump all
yeah,
over the place,
yeah.
and
Right, right.
but yeah, I know what you're saying. I mean, I actually prefer just like you with like the fixed bridge or whatever,
I do.
and but,
I like the
you
standard
know,
bridge. Yeah,
but the Floyds too. It's like when you're playing live and for quick tuning, sometimes you have those fine tuners, but I don't know. My other guitars, they stay in tune just as good, as a Floyd.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
I don't know what's right or wrong and all that. So but I get you about the Floyd. Pain in the
yeah,
ass, And also, I hate the fact that you're cutting all that wood out of the guitar. But there's like me and Roger talk about a lot is like FU tone, and I have it on some of my stuff, and it definitely changes the guitar, like
Yeah.
as
yeah.
far as the and the sound, like for the better. It's a real thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah, it does give it a little more beef, and like Alex said, if you put a trim stop on them, they stay in tune really well. And
that's
and I
Ash
a
does
as
something in there.
what's
And
that?
Ash from Shed the Skin, our guitar player singer
Oh,
guy.
I
He
got that in there.
Thomas, yeah, he uses that thing. He has like a blocker, and they're under the
Yeah,
Floyd.
Yeah.
yeah,
Now I didn't like them at first as a tech. When I first opened my business, I was like, I never want to do electronics or Floyd Rose. And Floyd Rose was the first guitar that came in, and I swear to God, that's all I do is Floyd Rose and electronics.
Yeah,
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 No, I've learned to like them. I like them a lot now. Now as a player, I'm left-handed, so it's wonky for me anyways. I don't know what the hell to do with a whammy bar on a Floyd, so it's pretty useless.
I'd
yeah.
like to. I like to do that. I like when you slap it and get that Andy LaRock or Brad Gillis that
Yeah,
thing.
Yeah, yeah,
I thought there's definitely advantages to it, and I love Van Halen and George Lynch and Randy Rhoads and Slayer.
yeah, yeah.
I love a
yeah,
lot of whammy bar players. Morbid Angel. You know what I mean? I like the use of the whammy bar. I like to hear it. But
Yeah.
I've just gotten to where that's why I've used a lot of real heavy vibrato in my playing and a lot of big bends and shit. It's me
right.
trying to kind of get I'll do this sometimes, like,
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
or whatever, or this, like, up
Yeah.
above the
Well,
knee.
it's like
So,
the
I-
Jakey Lee thing, It's like Jakey Lee, he had that, I think it was like a hip shot bridge or whatever. And, he just did different techniques to get that kind of whammy bar effect,
yeah,
on the guitar,
yeah. Rory Gallagher would do that too. Rory Gallagher would do a lot of
Yeah,
spring
yeah,
shit when he was doing, like,
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
It's not the same as having a whammy bar, but you can, when you need that effect, you can do that. I also do a lot of just like, I don't have a pick anywhere near me, but I do a lot of chromatic, like, and then
mhm,
and you just go
Yeah.
out of pitch and back into pitch. That'll give it that whammy effect too, kind of sometimes.
right, right.
Yeah. I moved away from the Floyd, but or I should say the whammy bar, like a long time ago, and it's just and there's ways like when you're doing like even Bob doesn't use it anymore. The bar he hasn't used it in years, and he just kind of like those old solos where he's using the bar. He just kind of bends a note a little extra, or he may push on the Floyd a little bit or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
There's ways of, you know, making those things happen,
There
without the
is.
Floyd,
Yeah.
little tricks,
Yeah.
that you can,
In the studio,
and I
I've
think
used,
the guitars sound better, when it's like I said, that's just me, like when it's just all that wood there, or like a hip shop bridge or something like
yeah,
that.
you don't want to you don't really want to take a big hunk of the body out of the guitar if you don't have to. I would
Right.
think.
Yeah.
Right.
But there's no real science to anything because it's bizarre. Like I have one guitar that's a Evertune, the only guitar I have with Evertune. And the Evertune, they cut more wood out of the back, but that guitar is like you worked on that guitar before,
Yeah.
Roger.
Yeah.
That guitar, it's got a fat tone to it. Like
What's Evertune?
what's that?
What is Evertune?
Evertune is, I can show you real quick. It it is a
Yeah, I could
keeps the
describe
guitar.
it, but it'd be better if he showed it.
Well, it keeps the guitar. Let me see if I can get a good angle.
It's hard to do that, isn't
Yeah,
it?
you have to. There you go.
Yeah. So, and as you see, the back of the guitar, they cut all the more than Floyd or a Fender or something.
Yeah. Okay.
But each string is its own mechanism. Maybe Roger could probably even explain it better than me. But it works.
What's that?
What does that do,
What did you
Roger?
say?
So it's very interesting. Let me see if I can explain. So it operates. So like you said, every string has its own part of the bridge, if you will, that operates as like a separate mechanism, like a spring and all that. But kind of the basics of it are, you can have it. Let's say there's two areas that you can tune it in. So you can tune it so it operates like a regular guitar, to where if you go to the 12th string and do a 1 or 2 step bend, it'll make the bend. Or you can set it at this pivot point, if you will, in the bridge, where you can bend the same string at the 12th fret as far as you can, and it'll just hold the note. Like it won't make a bend noise. It always
Yeah.
stays in tune. Evertune.
Weird.
I never use that. I wanted to bend.
Alex keeps his where you can keep it so it functions like a regular guitar, and they stay in tune really well. But
Okay,
you
so
can
that's
also, like, if you're just up there chugging along playing rhythm and you're not going to be doing bends and all that, you can have it to where it just it's basically a bridge that compensates for what you're doing with the string and keeps it in tune.
okay.
That's a good way to describe it, I guess.
All right, that's pretty interesting.
Great for the studio. It's great for the
Yeah.
studio, no doubt.
Yeah.
Like if you're tracking rhythms or whatever.
Right.
I've used that guitar in the studio. I don't take it out with me. I played it once live, but that's another thing. It's like we're talking about techs. It's like that's a guitar. If I'm going to take an Evertune out with me, I got to have a tech with me that knows how to use that thing. Because if you go out of tune, it's not like you have to use a key that you go in on the bridge to tune it. You don't tune it with the tuners, so
Right.
it's
That's crazy.
that can be a pain in the ass.
I can
in the
tell you
studio,
they're engineered really well, and I like things that are built well and make sense, and they do. But they are. I told Alex over the weekend, it's like they come in so infrequently that when they come in, it's like a nylon string guitar. When they come in, it's like, let me freshen up on how to get these things set up again. So,
Yeah.
because you don't see them that much, but they are engineered very well, I think.
That's cool.
You don't see them a lot, though.
Sounds complicated, though.
it's definitely a cool tool. But at first,
it's
I
complicated.
wanted to break, I wanted to break the thing for a year having a guitar.
It sounds like it
until
sounds
I
like
actually had to bring it.
It sounds like
I brought it to a guy that.
Sounds like it would be
What's
about
that?
as much. It sounds like it could possibly be as much of a pain in the ass as a Floyd or
no, it's actually
more.
I think it's
more
it definitely is. There's a bigger learning curve on that than a Floyd, I think. I don't know. I think I've gotten to the points with Floyd's where I see them so much, I just pull them out of the guitar, string them in front of me, and throw them back in the guitar. But that one, there's a little bit more to it. But I mean, it's like I said, they operate really well.
I would have those problems with on a Floyd with the little block getting like jammed the wrong way or lose it.
Oh
If
yeah,
and then you're fucked. Like Floyds are
annoying.
there's so much can go wrong with a Floyd Rose.
Yeah. I have well, and it's funny once you take them apart because I'm a FU tone dealer, so I've taken them apart a few times now. Once you take them apart, they're pretty simple. But I've had people watch me while I'm working on guitars, and they find it interesting. I like to take everything away from the guitar so I don't scar it up and ding it or whatever. So when I'm stringing one up, most of the time I'll take the bridge right out of the guitar, just set it in front of me, string it up, and then pop it back in the guitar, and then just wind it up, and it goes pretty fast. But I
Right?
guess maybe if I worked at a high volume shop, like one of the big boxes, I'd probably
Yeah.
have to do things to cut down on time a little more. But I'm fortunate enough I don't have to do that.
Right.
Worst that happens is my boss divorces me.
Yeah. So actually, what was the last tour? I'm pretty sure you did that. You guys were on the Venom Inc. tour, right?
That's the last tour we've done so far.
Mhm.
We have a little short run in April coming up. It's East Coast. I'm not sure that I don't really know all the details or even who we're playing with. And then
Mhm.
there's a thing in May coming up with Incantation. I don't think it's actually been announced yet, though. I don't know if I'm supposed to
Oh,
talk about
okay.
it. I mean, yeah, it's short though. It's like a week or two, couple weeks, I think.
Oh, okay. Cool.
It's around the Metal Fest, Milwaukee Metal Fest, but we're not on it, but they
Oh,
are.
Wow.
oh, okay. Oh, that's nice. That'll be cool. Little cool
Yeah,
package, you guys. We can.
yeah, that'll be.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. That'll be a lot of fun.
So how was the Venom Inc? That must have been like one of the knockoff tours for you. It's just like, all right, uh, get the tour with Venom.
Yeah, it was
Pretty
fucking
cool.
great. Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, Mantis wasn't able to do the tour because
Yeah.
his girlfriend had longtime girlfriend or wife or whatever. She had
Mhm.
cancer, and he
Mhm.
opted to do the right thing and stay home and take care
Right.
of business. And
Mhm.
so that was kind of a bummer because I was like, oh, we get to tour with fucking Mantis. That's amazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
They got Mike Hickey, and Mike Hickey's a real cool dude, and it was nice touring with him and getting to know that guy. He was real cool, fucking good dude. He was Joe Bonamassa's tech for long ass
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Wow.
He had a
Yeah.
story.
That's right.
He was cool to talk to and hang out with and talk about guitars and shit. And
Yeah.
yeah, so that was, and he was on Calm Before the Storm and all that, a couple of those. I
Mhm.
think he's on that Metal Black one. I never listened to that one too much, but yeah,
Yeah.
but he's
Yeah.
a great guitar player, great
Yeah.
guy. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so that was fun. And Tony Dolan's cool as shit too. You know what I mean?
Oh,
They
yeah.
were good
He's
dudes,
great.
good band to tour
Mhm.
with. And you got to hear Venom songs every night. You know what I mean? It's just nothing wrong with
Yeah.
that.
Right.
Yeah.
And Satan was on the tour. That was
Fuck
amazing.
yeah.
That
Totally.
was,
Yeah.
that was really cool to see those guys play every night. We get to play,
Mhm.
tear down, and Satan's setting up and watch great bands. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was a good time. Those guys,
Oh, that's
Satan,
awesome.
super cool to hang out with too.
Yeah,
Old
I
Brit.
met them briefly. I played a couple festivals with them, and I'm a big fan and all, but I kind of kept it brief. I didn't want to punish them or anything like that.
It
But
took a few days for them to, you know, the first few days we thought they hated us. They're just very British. They're just very British. They have their way. But once they opened up, it was fucking great, man. They drank with us all the
yeah,
time. Like they were cool dudes, real cool dudes. And man, great guitar players. Great guitar players.
oh hell yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah. Fuck
Yeah, it
yeah.
was awesome. So hopefully we got some more, we got those two things I mentioned coming up, a couple shorter runs, and then hopefully in the summer we have something, sizable, something that's good coming up, but I don't know yet for sure.
hmm Is there a new like excitement in the band, like new label and all that kind of stuff, and new record?
It was
And,
yes, yeah, yes, and but it was a rough go though. I mean, like I guess it always is, but this was a bit rougher than most. Like soon as we got the record deal with Nuclear Blast, that was great. The record we had the record done. We had the record done already. We did the record out of pocket. Like we had enough band money to pay Noah to record the album, and we finished the record, then sent it out to the labels, and then it got signed to Nuclear Blast. So that was a nice surprise. It only took a few days too. It was like, I think that Tommy, really was excited to sign the band and shit. It happened very quickly, and that was cool. That came up together really nice. Then we did the Cro-Mags tour. Then the record wasn't out yet when we did the Cro-Mags tour, but we went and did the Cro-Mags tour in the spring, and right when we got back, Mike Lair, our guitar player, had he had a pretty major stroke, and and I guess that then the doctors, when they looked into it, they said, oh, you've been having mini strokes and for a long time and didn't know it, but which all kind of made sense because he did a bunch of weird shit that we didn't understand. Well, at one point we asked him to give us his address for the GPS because we were going to stay at his place the night we played Columbus, and he didn't remember his address. And we're like, you've lived there for 3 years, dude. You don't remember your address. But then I'm like, when I heard, oh, he's been having mini strokes this whole time, there were all these little stories throughout the tour made sense, and so he ended up having a massive strokes, and he's doing better. He's been out of rehab for a while now, and he's, I think, staying with his dad, and but he can't tour and all that. You know what I mean? He's got a lot to deal with. He's got a lot of problems to deal with, a lot of recovering to do. So that happened like almost that happened before the record even came out. Like, so right off the bat, we're just like, there's a massive blow we just took, Mike more than anybody, but sucked for all of us. He's one of our best friends, and it sucks when your friends that go through that kind of shit, of course, and then we replaced him with Todd Evans. And then Todd
I said yes.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, there's a little bit of
if I could thank Xfinity for the delay we're all having.
Yeah, that's why I keep going, huh? Yeah, but because you're cutting out a little bit. But yeah, Todd had to bow out. He was Todd was about 8 months, and then he had to bow out because of some issues with his family, and so now we're going to go at it with one guitar for a while and see how that goes. But I think it'll be, we don't have a lot of harmonies and all that kind of shit. It's pretty much just riffs and solos. And Ed on the bass, Ed's got a great big fat tone, and he can fill. I think it'll be fine. One guitar, cab on both sides, bass behind me in the solos. It should. I think it'll be fine. Tired of teaching songs to people, tired of teaching the songs to another guy who's there for a limited amount of time. Doing that for decades now,
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, we're excited about the record, and we're excited to get out there and tour for it. We and we already have a next record written. Probably go into the studio sometime in the next few months and start tracking the next record. So yeah, the band's excited, about all the goings on. But there have been some bumps in the road is all,
Yeah, always is. I
listened to the new record. It's a really great record.
Thank you. You guys are breaking up a little bit, but I did get.
I know. So this happened to me a couple of weeks ago. My internet was glitchy, and I thought it was my house, and it's really just the place we live. Like we're miles apart, but this area we're having big time internet problems. So he has a delay tonight.
Yeah.
What are one of the up and coming bands you're watching?
I don't pay that much attention to. I listen to Ted Nugent.
That's funny.
I listen to the Michael Schenker group. I don't. Up and coming bands aren't. It's been quite a few years since I paid a lot of attention to up and coming bands.
I said it last week. I think internet radio, Sirius radio, it's just ruined us. We all well, not really ruined us. Like we just listen to our genre of music. You don't hear anything new anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even have internet. I don't even have that. I don't even have Sirius or anything like that. I just have I have my record collection mostly and a CD collection, and then I did recently get YouTube Premium, not for the music so much. I got it because I like to watch YouTube on the TV, they started. You used to be able to skip the ads after 5 seconds, so it wasn't that bad. But now it's a minute.
Yeah,
Fuck it, I'll go to $13 a month.
Yeah, right.
A minute for a commercial. It's great, no commercials, but also it comes with an app on your phone, YouTube Music, and so for the first time ever, I have a streaming app that I kind of use here and there a little bit, like because I loaded a bunch of my CDs in my phone. But if there's something, maybe one day I want to listen to Riot Thundersteel or something, and it's not in my phone, I have the YouTube Premium app that pull that up,
So what is? I always want to ask this question. I don't know why. What is? I know why, because I heard Alex had an old song he posted one day. I was like, wow, I never would have dreamt he listened to it was almost oldies. What was it? Moody Blues, I think. Old Moody Blues from like the 60s, I think. What is something that you listen to that would surprise everybody?
I listen to tons of 60s and 70s rock that's outside of the metal realm. You know what I mean? I like I don't know if it would surprise people that I like guitar guys like Rory Gallagher and shit like that. I am a guitar player. It shouldn't be that surprising, but I like a lot of I love Hendrix and those kind of guys. I love all those like virtuoso blues kind of guys. They're the older ones. I don't listen to Kenny Wayne Shepherd and shit, but I mean like the ones from the 70s and 60s, Jeff Beck, all that kind of shit. Cream. I love Cream, all that blues, old, it's almost proto metal, some of it, you know what I mean? But I love all that kind of shit. I love I listen to fucking Bjork and I listen to weird shit. So, I
see, that's cool. That's what I was looking for.
I'm not just strictly metal, or I listen to a lot of punk. That's not weird either. Every metalhead, most metalheads listen to punk, but I got a bunch of Cyndi Lauper records, and I like pop, I like my 80s pop queens and shit like that too. So I'm a big Devo fan, and
cool.
I get outside. I go outside of the regular,
some of those influences creeps in your playing. Like for instance, in Ringworm, like the first song off the new record, there's a lot of kind of stuff on there, and it's cool because it's like you got Michael Schenker melodies mixed in with Discharge, and it's cool. It works,
There's songs that are total like Napalm Death songs, but then the solo comes up and it's Tooth and Nail. It's like total
George totally
tapping solo and shit. So they definitely pull a lot of. I definitely do a lot of that, just mixing. I don't care if George Lynch can fit into a Napalm Death song. You just got to make it happen.
That's funny.
I'm the same way. We got the same influences, so it's it's like 70s, heavy rock and all those great guitar playing of the 60s and 70s and early, new wave British heavy metal. And,
I love Scorpions.
Hardcore.
I like all that shit.
Well, I did find out, if I could tell something on Alex, I did find out this past weekend who Alex doesn't listen to. My daughter walked in the room while we were working on his guitar, and she was he probably remembers. She even laughed about it later. So she was talking about, working out. She's a 21-year-old girl, and she had watched the Grammys last week. She goes, I want to have arms like Miley Cyrus. Did you see that? And Alex went, no. No.
I don't
know.
He will one day. His little girl will get to that age.
I mean, I'm clueless, like especially like pop music these days. Like I am completely clueless. Like I'm clueless enough about the metal scene, and it's probably the same for you, Matt. It's like unless somebody like says, "Hey, check this band," like Ash. your bandmates. Ash will sometimes he would like, "Hey, check these guys out," or whatever. And most of them be good, but but I'm completely clueless. Just and the only reason I know stuff is being in the music industry. It's like you're out touring and all that shit. And
I work at the House of Blues, so I see shit that's my job. I see bands every day that are not bands I would never know existed if I didn't work there for.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's such a huge following, and you're just like, what the hell's
Yeah.
going on?
How did 2,000 people know who this is? But yeah, so some of them I know just from they play there every year for, it's only, but so I know what to expect going into work that day because I've worked that show a bunch of times. But it is amazing how much stuff is huge that you just have no idea even exists.
Yeah. You're just like
It's
especially
because
even
it's
like
not on your records.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not on your records, man.
Yeah,
you're playing like a music festival, and there's just some band that's like high up, on the roster or whatever, and you're just like, who is it?
yeah,
Like I'm completely, clueless, but
yeah.
That's why I
it's
told
fun.
you're
But I'm
gonna be
like
over.
70s and 80s. I'm happy there.
Maybe early 90s and back is like maybe like
Yeah.
93 and back. It's pretty, and that goes for all genres.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still good music, but it's just not
Sure.
for me. It's just not the uniqueness of the past, and
Yeah.
of all the
I
bands. They don't have that soul. It's like it's just about copying something now.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
you know,
The best, like, and they don't. A lot of bands, it seems to me, the bands that are doing the like retro death metal or retro thrash or whatever,
mhm.
it's very like they don't copy. Like if they copied a 50 bands and mix that together to where it sounded like their own band, that'd be one thing. But it's not. Doesn't seem like I hear that. Instead, you could really tell which 2 or 3 bands they're copying. And
Oh,
it seems real.
Yeah.
You know.
And I don't think they're trying. I think they're not trying to do their own thing. Like I'm sure you can agree with me. When we were younger, especially in the '80s, coming up in the extreme metal scene, like we had our influences, but we weren't trying to like copy anybody. We are just trying to do our own thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
speak our own voice. You just don't
Yeah.
hear that anymore.
No, everything is a rehash. Everything seems rehashed to me. It's rehashing this or rehashing that. And that's not what it was like when we were 20 years old. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It was still cool to be something new at that time. You know what I mean? And now it's like,
yeah,
and we weren't going back 20 years. We were going back 20 years at the time was Black Sabbath and shit. And we were
yeah,
putting that in there, but we weren't just sounding like Black Sabbath. There would be a Black
yeah,
Sabbath riff mixed into this other whatever, with all these other shit
yeah,
mixed in,
yeah,
you know?
yeah, yeah.
well, and it seems like I mean, just my opinion and listening to a lot of people talk about this, it seems like a lot of people really a lot of the newer death metal bands really look up to you guys from the 80s and maybe the early 90s. And that's why they're trying to emulate what you all did. Cause it seems like they're just trying to recreate that scene. I could be totally wrong
No,
because
I
I'm
think
new on the scene here, but
that seems
You
to
might
be
be on to something there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
but
it was I can see why that's great shit. I mean,
yeah,
that late 80s, early 90s death metal scene was fucking fantastic.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I was it was a brief time, but it was a pretty magical time. It was
Yeah,
so many, you know, bands all kind of doing their own thing and
yeah,
inspiring, I think, for all of us then.
yeah.
So
And then
it was the same like in the '70s and the '60s. You had the '60s bands in the rock and roll and the '70s scene, and they were all kind of pushing boundaries. And
yeah,
that's where I'm kind of getting to. I don't hear that so much nowadays.
right.
I'd rather hear something I don't particularly like, but is different. Like is kind of speaking their own language. And do their
Yeah.
own thing. And just
I mean,
copying.
I guess like there was a like deathcore and stuff like that were doing their own thing. It's just not my thing. I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
have any appreciation for it at all. But I guess it is sort of their own, more so than retro death metal or something is. Where you really are just mimicking something from the past.
yeah, yeah.
it could be worse. They could do the same thing that every other song on the radio today is doing, which sounds like
That
the next song on the radio.
Yeah, where they use the same
It
chord
could be
progression.
worse. At least they're being creative and they're not having machines make their music. So
True. That's true.
look at me with the cup half full.
That all stemmed from you asking me what up and coming bands I like.
I was hoping you were gonna say something like ABBA. I don't know.
I do love ABBA, but that's not up and coming.
Doesn't everybody? No. Oh, okay. I was back to the guilty pleasure one. Like, what would be?
Oh, I do love it. I've got ABBA records on my shelf. ABBA's a good ABBA's a late night after we close the bar down kind of ABBA records go on.
Yeah.
That's
one
funny.
I like the best. It's like the magic of ABBA. It's just a good best of.
Yeah, right.
Dancing Queen with a bunch of drunk guys around, it's just
I mean, what could go wrong?
yeah. Oh man.
That's cool.
But yeah, cool, man. Well, I guess we'll bring it to the end unless Roger, you have anything else you want
No,
to
man, this has been a lot of fun. I think this is kind of what we're trying to do. Like we said before, we're not trying to make it that typical interview, just kind of like BSing about guitars and gear and music and whatever.
Cool. I like the Eric one. I didn't see the guy from Full of Hell. I didn't see that one, but who was the third one?
That's Steve McQuaid, and he owns CMC Guitars.
Oh,
and
cool.
he plays in a Genesis cover band too. They do all like the late 70s to early 80s stuff. And
that's interesting. Okay.
He played in a band called Relic, which was like Craig from my old band, Gorephobia and Immolation.
Right.
They had a band. And he actually just he's a dealer for like Custom Shop Jackson, Fender, Charvel, all those guitars. So now he's branching off. He's still doing that, but he's starting his own guitar line, which these guitars look really good. And he's trying to beat the prices. Obviously, we know how prices are right now with inflation. And so he's basically making custom shop, high quality guitars. If you watch the interview, he'll show you some of the prototypes on there.
Nice.
Okay.
So they're basically, it's kind of like take on the early Charvels, So it's nice. Maple, like the Eddie Van Halen guitar or something like an Eddie, older body, maple neck, just all high quality stuff. And,
nice.
So I know him. I know how he thinks, and I don't even have to play one of these guitars. I know that they're got to be super good because he has integrity and I know his thought process.
Cool.
He likes and guitar making. So it's really cool.
That was a really cool interview. He was a cool guy. I could tell you that like the first one with Eric that was just fun to watch Eric and Alex talk and kind of like I got to be the fly on the wall for that one. The second one was super interesting. Spencer from Full of Hell was like some of the stuff that he's doing with guitars is really cool and out of the box kind of thing. And last week I enjoyed that one a lot too with Steve. That's a good one. You should go back and watch that. I mean, it gets a little like it probably went out of the death metal area a lot and into the guitar geek. We're trying to like zigzag back and forth between music and guitar nerd stuff, but I think that's what's going to be cool about this.
Hell yeah. This is a cool. I right away when I saw that you were doing this, Alex, I messaged him. I'm like, that's pretty fucking cool. A gear podcast.
I already had you in mind, Matt. Trust me. It's like I got to get on the show at some point. So cool, man. I'm glad to have you, man. And
thanks
hopefully
for having
I get to. Hopefully get to see you sometime soon out on the road, or see you out on the road, and good luck with everything, with the new record, the new label, with all your projects, So
maybe we'll play some shows together. It'd be cool to play some shows together at some point.
Love that. Love that, man.
All right, guys. All right, it was a cool meeting. Hey, hold on for just a second.
We're just gonna stop.